Hello, people of YouTube. In this video, I want to talk about a particular force that is rising in this world that I think people underestimate the dangers of. I think people massively, drastically underestimate the dangers of this particular entity, and and it is rising. It is gaining power in this world, and it goes by the name of the Quran. This not just, I don't just see the Quran as a book. I see it as a group of people. I see it as an entity, a dark force in this world. And the Quran. Now I can't say the M word, or I mean maybe I will later in the video. I don't know, but the Quran that is read by particular people and that is followed by particular people. It has been used to excuse the Islamic State. You know, the Islamic State has used the Quran to what's the word? To not the opposite of vilify. To what's the opposite of vilify? To um, I it sucks. I forgot the word, but the Islamic State has always used, as well as the jihad or whatever, the caliphate jihad, the those people that have taken over Syria. They've always used it as an excuse to do, very vile things. I mean, if anything, the Islamic State was the worst of them all. But I mean, you go to the Middle East and you see all the poverty, you see all the violence, you see all the warfare. If there's anything that the Quran has taught me, from reading it, from looking at it, it's taught me that pedophilia is accepted by those who read the Quran. Not only is pedophilia accepted, but it's also condoned. It's accepted, condoned, and it's sort of like promoted. And the reason why is, and here's a perfect example. It does condone this. Muhammad al Rin Ashid, whatever his name was, their stupid fake prophet, that nasty bastard. He uh, he basically uh, kidnapped a 6-year-old girl after like killing her parents. And then he raped her when she was only 9 years old. I mean, he says that like he consummated the marriage, but in reality, I don't think a 9-year-old can consent. So in my opinion, he raped the 9-year-old girl. I don't think she wanted to be, in a relationship with the guy. Maybe he like tried to manipulate her, shower her with gifts or whatever. I mean, he was pretty wealthy, but in my opinion, I think that it was, in my eyes, it's rape. And if you go to the Middle East, these people, they have all these excuses for why they have like a 3, 4, 5-year-old wife. I mean, if I mean cutting people's heads off, drowning people in cages, lighting people on fire, kicking people off buildings, cutting people's throats, shooting people, lining tons of people up and shooting them in the head for being Christian or being atheists or being Catholic or being gay or being transgender or whatever else, or leaving the Muslim population, becoming an ex-Muslim. I mean, if that wasn't bad enough on its own, most of these people condone and celebrate, child marriage, the consummation of child marriage, which is basically, raping your child sex slave wife, which is, in my opinion, pretty twisted. And it's most of the men, the women, not even the women don't really, have like young male, sex slave husbands or anything, because it's pretty much just the men that have the power. It's just the men that have these, twisted ideologies, thanks to this disgusting book called the Quran. But basically, the guy in the Quran, Muhammad, he takes this 6-year-old girl in as his slave, and then he rapes her, and then declares the marriage has been consummated, whatever. And he goes around beheading people and destroying people's statues, and bringing war to people and spitting on women. He's not only sexist, but he's also a pedophile, and he's a violent murderer as well. And and so the Islamic State took a lot of their beliefs, a lot of their justification. That's the word I was looking for. The opposite of justifying rights, justifying wrongs. Their justification of killing gay people, of killing LGBT people, of killing atheists and other religious people, was because of the Quran. The Islamic State only existed because of the Quran. The stabbings, all the stabbings, and the blank word ings, the ba blank ings. I can't say the word on YouTube, but the big boom boom things that happened at like Ariana Grande's concert, all the mass stabbings and people being ran over by cars and stuff, like during parades or protests. These things have happened, because of Muslims that follow the Quran too closely, and that's why a few countries have banned mosques. They've put a massive surveillance on mosques. Oh, and by the way, in case you didn't know, there were there were like 3 or 4 men, or maybe 8 or 9 of them, that lived, I think, here in Florida, and a few of them went to a mosque here in Florida, and they became like ultra religious after reading the Quran and joining this mosque, and maybe it was before that. I think they lived in like Afghanistan, or Iraq or something before that, but they pretty much went to a mosque or whatever, I think somewhere in Florida, and then after they left that, they got on I think 3 or 4 separate planes, and then that's how you got 9/11, was because of these people who took the Quran a little too seriously. And by the way, for any Muslim that says, "Oh, the Quran doesn't teach murder. The Quran doesn't teach violence." Yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. You're lying. You're trying to twist the words. You're lying. Oh, yes, it does. It's just like how some Christians like to sugarcoat the Bible and say, oh, the Bible, doesn't say, gay people will go to hell. Oh, yes, it does. Stop fucking denying what the Bible is saying. Stop fucking denying what the Quran says. The Bible, by the way, I'm not shitting on the Bible. I think the Bible is just fine. The Quran is the book you have to worry about. The Christians are nobody. I'm Christian, by the way. And we Christians are not the people you need to worry about. It's the Muslims, the Quran, the people who read the Quran, the Muslim extremists, the Arab extremists who read the Quran. They're the people you have to worry about, because it's the people that get indoctrinated into these mosques because they feel like they're being wronged in different countries, or because just because of what the other Muslims teach them, that are like ultra extremists or whatever. It influences like a lot of these young guys to like go and do crazy stuff, and that's where you get a lot of these mass murders from. Oh, and by the way, the Pulse nightclub shooting, if I'm correct, was done by a man who read the Quran, and he got too deep into it, and his girlfriend like tried to warn him, "Don't do this, don't do that." He didn't listen, and he went and shot up the Pulse nightclub, and massacred like 49 people. I think including himself. I think he died. And why did that happen? It's because he's Muslim, and not just Muslim, but he was ultra Muslim. Now, I think some Muslims in the world are decent people, but for those who take the Quran a little too seriously, and they actually do as the Quran says, then that's when they go out and they commit mass murders, mass shootings. They BOM blank word people, and cause towers to fall and buildings to be destroyed, disintegrated. Weddings, people getting, blown up at weddings, that all this is done by people who follow ISIS, people who follow like these jihadists, If anything, the Quran is the most dangerous book in the world. And if you don't understand the Quran like I do, and you can say whatever bullshit you want, I mean, if you haven't looked at it like I have, if you doubt what I'm about to say, then you clearly haven't read it. You don't know shit about the Quran. And I, as a Christian, have read it. I've looked at it, and I can tell you that the Quran states it says that in the end times, when the Muslim people take over, they will have the right to enslave people and kill anyone who does not follow the Quran. Anyone who's not Muslim, they have the right to kill. They're allowed to taxate people who refuse their religion until the end times come, and even the Quran says that Jesus Christ would return and stuff. Even people who read the Quran believe that Jesus Christ is a prophet. They just don't think he was the Father and Son, God and man in the same body and all that. It's complicated, but the point is, the Muslim in the Quran it says that they would take over, and they would have the right, and that they would also decide to end up killing the Christians, killing Catholics, killing Buddhists, killing everyone who doesn't convert to Islam. Anybody who refuses to read the Quran, denounce their religion, and become Muslim will get their heads cut off. Now, why is it that the Bible talks about, and just to speak a little on a biblical level, why does the Bible talk about the Antichrist and beheadings? It's because the Antichrist comes from the Middle East. The Antichrist, it follows the Quran. The Antichrist is Muslim. The Antichrist is an Arab. He will behead people who do not read the Quran, who do not follow him as pretty much their God, because he'll be beheading them, because it's always been a thing in the Middle East. The whole thing to do with the Antichrist comes from the Quran. It's because of Muhammad, which, by the way, Muhammad was a piece of shit. If anybody doesn't know, I don't care. I'll say it. I get it. The Muslims get all pissed off and they want to kill somebody who talks shit about their book or their religion, but I don't care. Muhammad was a rapist, a slaver, a murderer, a destroyer, blasphemer against. I mean, he even talks shit about, like, Christians and stuff, as far as I'm aware. And Jesus. The only reason why Jesus is in the Quran is because he got it from the Bible. Whether you want to believe as a Muslim that the Bible is a real thing, that the Old and New Testament was a real thing. Obviously, Muhammad existed 600 years after Jesus Christ's death and resurrection. Jesus Christ existed 600 years, I think at least 400 or 600 years before Muhammad. And so Muhammad obviously got Jesus from somewhere to put it in his Quran. He got it from somewhere. Where did he get it from? Obviously the Bible. Obviously the Jewish people. He obviously got it from them. And even in the Quran it says something about Jesus coming down to stop the Antichrist in the end times, and Muslims taking over, and blah blah blah, all this stuff. It's all flip-flopped, reversed, between, like, the revelations in the Bible and the revelations of the Quran. It's all flip-flopped and everything. It's complicated, but my point here is that the Muslim world is a violent, dangerous one, and anytime you see mosques and you sort of, like, infiltrate them, and you get deep into their, like, the ultra religious stuff, then that's usually when you get, like, young guys coming out of there, young women coming out of there, thinking, I need to sacrifice myself for Muhammad. I need to sacrifice myself for Allah. I need to do a mashallah thing, and drive into a crowd of people and kill 100 people, run them over, or go into a train and stab 30 people and kill them because they're not Muslim or something. You get this extreme behavior from Muslims. Oh, and by the way, if that isn't proof enough, I can give you even more. Now, a lot of Muslim people might bash on Andrew Tate, but Andrew Tate actually follows the Quran somewhat well, somewhat decently, and Andrew Tate's a pretty sexist guy. He always has been. But he's been like super, super empowered. He's been empowered to be super sexist, a super womanizer, super woman basher because of the Quran that he follows. The Quran is the book of evil. It is the most evil, the most bad book that I think there's ever been. Any kind of book that promotes violence is bad. A lot of people might like shit on Christians and say, "Oh, the Bible promotes stoning gay people, killing people." Well, no, the New Testament, it doesn't say almost anything about that. It talks about, loving your neighbor, promoting peace, not killing people. I mean, even before the New Testament of the Bible, the Old Testament with Noah and the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt love your neighbor, thou shalt not, lie, all this other stuff. I mean, if you compare the Bible, the Holy Bible, the Christian Bible, to the Quran, if you compare almost any book in the world to the Quran, I would say the Quran is just about the most vile, sick, violence promoting, pedophilia promoting book, and probably the entire known world. I mean, it's the most prevalent bad book there is, if that makes sense. It's everywhere, and billions of people are following this book that teaches horrendous things, that says it's acceptable. You wouldn't have had Osama bin Laden. You wouldn't have had you wouldn't have had what's his name? The guy that was invaded by the U.S. military because they claimed he had weapons of mass destruction. I forget, but that brutal dictator that was a piece of shit. You wouldn't have had him if it wasn't for the Quran. You wouldn't have had Saudi Arabia and its human rights abuses. You wouldn't have had that going on in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Their women bashing. You wouldn't have all these conflicts in Syria, Iran, Afghanistan, Israel, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, as I said before, Lebanon, partially Egypt, all throughout like the western, northwestern side of Africa. It's now moving down to the south and the east side of Africa. You wouldn't have all this, Muslim extremism, all this violence, all this poverty, all this corruption if the Quran didn't exist. The Quran is the number one book of evil in this world, in my opinion, and it promotes it makes violence and rape and slavery and overtaxation. Like fuck the IRS and taxation. That's pretty awful shit. It makes all this acceptable. Nobody likes taxes. Fuck taxes. But the Quran even says that taxing is great. Overtaxing non-Muslim people is good and all. It's like, oh fuck that. Hell no. Once you start encouraging the overtaxation of people, that's when I say fuck that. But pretty much. I mean, back in like the 17 and 1800s, I think like U.S. citizens would like cover tax collectors in like oil and duck, like boiling oil and like duck feathers, and they would like really fuck with the tax collectors. Nobody likes tax collectors. Nobody likes taxes, and the Quran promotes this like tremendously and stuff when it comes to like non-Muslim people. It says something like anybody that's not Muslim should be taxed until the end times comes, then kill all non-Muslim people, enslave and kill them all. So yeah, anybody that bashes me for this is either not Muslim or is Muslim and clearly doesn't know the Quran very well at all. And you're a fucking idiot if you go against what I say. You're a fool. Sorry to say. But I mean, the stuff that I'm saying is factual. It comes from the Quran. I might even make a part two showing you where it says this stuff, because it does say this stuff. It's like a lot of Christians, a lot of Christians don't even know their Bible, Buddhist people don't even know I'm sure there's a Buddhist book out there, and I'm sure most Buddhist people don't even know whatever is in their book. I'm sure the Buddhist people have a book too, like to do with Vishnu and Shiva and all that stuff. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. All this crazy shit going on in the world is because of Islam. It's because of the Quran. And the only reason why there aren't mass stabbings and mass murder attacks in China, where there's a lot of like Uyghur Muslim people. The only reason why that's not going on is because China is pretty much massacring Muslim people. They're pretty much literally like putting them in concentration camps and mass sterilizing and mass murdering them, which I don't agree with that. I think that that's kind of evil, even if it's against Muslim people. I don't agree with that. But China is dealing with their Muslim issues way too severely. And like I said before, some, if not most, Muslim people are peaceful, but a lot of them are quite extreme, and the number of extreme Muslim people is only going to grow as they gain more power and control in the world and more wealth. And by the way, the most wealthy people in the world are Muslim. The leader of the Saudi Arabian nation is that Antichrist guy, whatever his name is. He's like just about the most wealthy person on the planet. You know, and he's a pretty sexist guy from what I heard. He's pretty sexist, but a lot of this wealth and this violence and depravity, this very pedophilic, slave, slavery, nasty shit comes from the Quran. And I think there was one more thing I wanted to say. I don't remember what it was. It had something to do with like certain Muslim communities besides China that existed somewhere that were causing problems. I know that's big in the UK. There's something else I wanted to bring up. I don't know, but you wonder why mosques and people that buy the Quran are like blacklisted and monitored heavily by the government. It's because of 9/11 and all these other things that have happened. And even some other Western type countries like the UK. You wonder why Muslims have been banned, why a lot of Palestinian people have been banned from going into, Saudi Arabia, or banned from going into the United Arab Emirates. They don't want them there. They don't want them there. They see them as a problem. Even some Muslim countries see their own Quran reading Muslim people as a problem. I mean, if that isn't proof enough, of the Quran being bad, I don't know what is. They say, oh, we don't want the Palestinian people because they have their own land to go to. We need to make the Israeli government let the Muslim people back into Palestine. The Palestinian people need to go back home. Israel needs to let it happen. We can't take them. No, it's not. It's not that Saudi Arabia or the UAE can't take them. It's that they don't want them there because it will put a target on them for taking in potentially dangerous extremist people, as the United States government and Israeli government claims, whether it be true or not. Um, there are many other truths behind why the Palestinian people aren't wanted in other countries. Only Iran will take them because the Iranian government is pretty extreme when it comes to the Muslim teachings. They're quite extreme Muslims in Iran, especially like in high government. They're always talking about destroy Israel, death to Israel. They're pretty extreme. Um, I mean, there's a lot more actually that I want to talk about, but I'll probably make a part two to this video because there's so much to say. And also, the last thing I want to say is this flag is a flag of the future Muslim world nation. That'll be coming in I think a few years. You'll probably remember this photo in the next few years when new governments take over, when new governments take precedence in the world. You'll probably go back to this video, or you'll get like a flashback of this photo and be like, oh, I saw that somewhere. So yeah, this is like a super secret photo reference to something. Super duper secret photo reference. You can only find it in one other place on the entire internet, and you won't find it on Google or anything. You're not going to find it anywhere else on the internet other than in one place, but it's a super secret reference to the true danger of the Quran, the true nature of the Quran, and the plans of the of certain Muslim people, or at least those in power that rule nations. A few individuals have some pretty nasty plans, and this is like a secret reference to all that. And I will say no more. That's for you to uncover. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and definitely comment on the video, and check out my other content. So yeah.